Today we're going to talk about self-esteem. We all know the importance of self-esteem, but what is it really? And if you don't know and have lost it, or perhaps you never really felt you had it, how do you go about building it? Well, joining us today is Dr. Joe Rubino. He's an internationally acclaimed expert on the topic of self-esteem, a personal development trainer and success coach. He's the best-selling author of almost a dozen books, some of which I have here. The Success Code is one of them. This one that I'm having is Restore Your Magnificence, all about building self-esteem and really sort of changing your life. So we're glad to have you with us. Now, just to get some background on you before we go into the topic of self-esteem, which I think is just hugely important and confusing for many people. You were a dentist, and now you are a personal coach, a motivational speaker, and also network marketing is huge for you. How did that come about?
Well, it was through a whole process of really identifying what my important values were, where as a dentist, I thought that that was the only thing that I really knew how to do. You know, I had gone to school, Helena, for 7 years to become a dentist. It was something that I had a lot of not only time and money into. I had a very successful, thriving practice. We were seeing up to 250 patients, new patients a month, but something was missing. For me, it seemed like there was something more out there, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. And it wasn't until I got in touch with what were my most important values that I saw what was really missing, and then I could really transition into a new possibility, which was all of the things that I have since gone into, discovering what was important to me, my life purpose, which I declared, the gifts that I had that I hadn't been realizing. And so the whole notion of self-esteem became a passion, which I was able to not only transition to for myself, but to support other people to really be their best with.
Well, I could tell you're a dentist, you have great teeth. And I think that that's something a lot of people think about, right? You go to school, you choose a profession, you decide, okay, this is what I want to be, you achieve that goal, and you're there and you're doing it, and you're like, wait a minute. I'm supposed to be happy, right? I'm supposed to be fulfilled, but why am I not? I think it's something a lot of people, the majority of the population, struggle with.
Well, you know, so often we go into things when we're younger, not really fully realizing what's important to us. We don't have our values clear to us. We're not in touch with those things that really drive us, those things that are the thread that make up the fabric of who we are. And when we discover those most important values, we see that we perhaps took a path that doesn't totally honor those values.
So for example, for you, what were some of those values and why was it not congruent with being a dentist?
Well, creativity, contribution, love, belonging, the ability to be an inspiration to people was a big value that I discovered, which when I was practicing as a dentist, even though I had a very nice practice, dentists are great. I'm not trying to talk people out of being involved in that great profession. But for me, what I discovered was that there were some gifts, like my ability to write, which I was not aware of, my ability to create structures to support people to feel good about who they are and to clear up their past and to move forward powerfully into their future. And when I discovered that those were things that would really, if I had 300 years to live, I could do those every day for the next 300 years and be passionate about those every day going forward. Where dentistry, I had lost a lot of that passion. I was resigned that that was the only thing that I knew how to do at the time.
Well, I love that statement that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, right? Which
So
is true, because I know I can attest to that. I really don't feel that I work because I get to interview wonderful people such as yourself. But let's go into the subject of self-esteem, because this is a biggie. When people talk about self-esteem, I think that there's a lot of misconceptions out there in terms of what self-esteem is. And sometimes there's bravado that comes out and appears like self-esteem, but it's really not. It's actually insecurity. So define self-esteem.
Self-esteem is actually the feeling of being competent and capable of moving your life forward in any of the 6 areas of life. Feeling good about your health and appearance, feeling good about your relationships and your family, feeling good about your ability to create wealth and finances, your ability to have fun and recreate and have a balanced life, your ability to be personally and spiritually nurtured and involved. All of these different areas, when we feel competent and capable and able to produce a result in, and this is the important part, when we can work powerfully interacting with others and supporting others. So it's not just about egotism. That's really a point that many people miss. Those people with high self-esteem aren't just focused on themselves, but they're focused on mutuality. They're focused, they appreciate what it's like to be in the other person's shoes, and so that they have this interrelationship going that it goes well beyond people that are just ego-based.
And that's the bravado versus the true self-esteem, right? Like somebody can
Absolutely.
appear that they've got all the self-esteem in the world, they've got this bravado and this ego, and they're really doing well, but inside perhaps not.
Well, you know, those people that have the greatest ego show, so to speak, they're the people that have to put on that show because there's something missing. You know, they might feel good about themselves in certain elements of their lives, but perhaps, you know, their relationships are suffering. Or maybe, you know, they're very competent in their appearance, but maybe they're not that great in business or with family, or there's some pain in their lives. And unless all 6 areas of our lives are working optimally, then, you know, there's some work that we need to do to be fully self-actualized and fulfilled and happy and moving forward in the way that supports us.
Now you talk about the statistic that 99% of the time the personal struggles that we experience in any one of those 6 areas are a direct result of self-esteem. So self-esteem, I guess, I heard a statistic not long ago in terms of the number of negative messages kids receive compared to the number of positive, and the differential is huge.
Yes.
Perhaps 4 positive messages compared to, I don't know, 100,000 negative messages, somewhere along that line. Is that where it stems from?
Well, that certainly contributes to it, but it all begins early on as a child, usually between the ages of 0 and 6 years, but it can be a little later, up until 12 years. When someone says or does something and we either buy into a negative comment or we make something up about ourselves that has us feel as though we're less than, we're unlovable, we're not good enough, we're defective in some way. And then from that perspective, we now look at the world through those glasses. There's something wrong with me. So that the next time an incident that is emotional comes about, we look upon that, judging ourselves as not being good enough, not fitting in, not meeting that standard of perfection that the world has us measure up to. And so as a result, we do this on a daily basis, dozens and dozens of times, and every time we decide that, oh, I'm not good enough for that, or that person doesn't like me, or they said that but they really meant this about me, we further deepen this whole drama cycle that diminishes our self-esteem. It has us feel poorly about who we are. And before we know it, we are unworthy. We are unlovable. There is something definitely wrong with us. So we withdraw from our relationships, and we actually create this self-fulfilling prophecy where our greatest fears become manifest because, you know, I think that you don't like me, and so now I avoid you. And so now, you know, you say he's a snob and you don't like me. Or you say there's something wrong with me because I'm not relating in a way that supports me. And the whole thing just snowballs, and before we know it, we're in this downward spiral that our lives are resigned. We're in this deep resignation, this silent desperation where we don't know that we can break through it in an instant, like flipping a light switch. That's all it takes.